What
really
about my co-host,
Yes.
Ed Balls?
Yeah, you've never done me.
Well, the thing about you, I think you always do raise your jaw just in the question, the arm over here. And as the question goes on, the eyebrows raise as well, just to get the enthusiasm going. And from here, the next stage is probably Bruce Forsyth.
Pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister to call a general election following a night of setbacks. And we've got reaction live in the studio here from the party leaders themselves.
Yeah. Master impressionist Jon Culshaw is here. Plenty of things to celebrate, John. Dead Ringers is on tonight.
This very evening, yes. We were recording the show last night, a few alternative endings, depending on which way the election went.
Absolutely right.
Yes, we had to cover those off, you see.
And happy 40th anniversary, of course, to Spitting Image.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
So much has changed since you all started out. And you're touring next year with Imposter Syndrome.
Yeah.
What did you make yesterday? Boris Johnson, what would he have done? He turned up at the polling station, didn't have his ID with him. How did that conversation go, John?
It's just a guy. Well, I'm sorry, I'm very recognisable. I thought I would have been, but no, well, that's quite good. I'm off the hook. I don't need to vote now. Huzzah. Isn't it marvellous when these flukes take place? He's just a tumbling ball of energy perpetually, isn't he?
Yes.
Never changes.
And what will Rishi Sunak... He's there in number 10 this morning. It's been a dismal night for the Conservatives. As he's passed his tea, what's he saying, John?
Well, I think he would probably... He'd sound... With Rishi, you start at Tony Blair. The staccato of Tony Blair, then make it a little bit more smoother, running along like that. Rishi Sunak, your rail replacement bus service Prime Minister, unless you're watching on ITV+1, in which case all bets are off.
It is so interesting. Until you do your impressions, I'd never properly heard the comparison of Tony Blair and Rishi Sunak, but they are so similar.
Yeah, Tony Blair, very staccato, like that. Next stage, probably the Daleks. But with Rishi, much more flowing like that, but still in the same sort of vocal area. The plan is working, let's stick with it. Yes, I'll trot that phrase out again.
And what will Sir Keir Starmer, how will he be reacting this morning? Because overall, they are celebrating.
Yes, I imagine he will be expressing his great, unbridled euphoria in this equally euphoric manner, just like this, being very sensible and taking nothing for granted.
Fantastic.
Really,
what is the impression that you get asked to do the most, John? What's the most popular one?
It might be Rishi at the moment. Sometimes people might think of Tom Baker, They might think of the Doctor from the 1970s. Professor Brian Cox, when we need to look to science to lift our morale and connect with the stars. Sometimes it might be John Bishop like that, every sort of word as a movement to punctuate it, that kind of thing.
And do you do sort of angry, dour, prime ministerial Gordon Brown these days, or do you do statesman, post-politics, global kind of advocate?
Well, a little bit of each. It's interesting how characters do change over the years. When he was Prime Minister, and of course I remember us working together very, very wonderfully, this kind of rhythm, that sort of way. And now it's lovely, whenever he's on here, for example, he's speaking it with this great sense of wisdom, and people turn, and he gives this sense of reassurance, I think, because I've seen these patterns. It's all about moderating the cycles. And it's a lovely voice to do it. It's a nice space to occupy.
What about my co-host,
Yes.
Ed Balls?
Yeah. You've never done me.
Well, the thing about you, I think you always do raise your jaw just in the question, the arm over here. And as the question goes on, the eyebrows raise as well, just to get the enthusiasm going. And from here, the next stage is probably Bruce Forsyth.
I think that's an honour.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to take that.
It shows,
It's never been said before, but I'm going to take it.
These recognisable things where you go, And with impressions, it's all about doing the things that people don't realise that they've noticed. And then stretching it like a caricaturist does. And making it
interesting. And if you were doing an impression of you, what would be the thing you'd pick out?
I remember when Phil Cornwall, the wonderful Phil Cornwall from Stella Street and many others, he did an impression of me on Dead Ringers. And he was sort of like, a slightly nervous, polite woodland creature, like that. It's that kind of thing. Which I thought that's quite nice. It could have been worse.
You were pleased?
It could have been a lot worse.
It could, right, OK,
I didn't mind
dabbing
that
with
at all.
fate brace. Jon Culshaw, thank you so much.
Could you take us to the weather in the style of Susanna Reid?
Oh, I could never be so elegant. I could never be so pristine. I could never... Maybe I'll do it as Les Dawson.
Oh, OK.
Susanna Reid to Les Dawson.
Well, why not? That's an honour for me. Right, here we go. Camera 2.
Yes. Here is... I'll do Brian Cox. Here is Laura with the weather, which is the movement of the atmosphere. Yeah.